At 31,000 feet, Air India Flight 182 was 4 hours from its stopover in London. On board were 329 people, including 82 children traveling to visit family in India for the summer holidays. In the London Air Traffic Control Centre, operators monitored the 747's steady progress across the Atlantic. The flight was on time, the weather was clear, and radar showed no signs of trouble. At 8:14 a.m., the green blip simply vanished. There was no distress signal, no erratic movement, and no emergency call from the cockpit. In a single radar sweep, a massive double-decker aircraft had disappeared. For the controllers, the silence was total. They were left looking at an empty screen, trying to understand how a functioning jetliner could drop out of the sky without a second's warning. The first confirmation of the disaster came from below. A cargo ship captain in the North Atlantic reported seeing a massive fireball fall from the clouds and shatter against the ocean surface. Rescue vessels arrived to find a debris field stretching across 5 miles of open water. Amidst the floating luggage and aircraft parts, the scale of the destruction became clear. Recovery teams pulled 131 passengers from the water, many still seatbelted into their chairs. The remaining 198 people were never found, lost to the depths of the Atlantic. To investigators, the lack of a mayday call and the wide distribution of the wreckage pointed to one conclusion: the plane had broken apart instantly while at its cruising altitude. Analysis of the recovered fuselage revealed the specific nature of the failure. The outward curled metal and structural damage confirmed that the plane had undergone explosive decompression. A blast in the forward cargo hold had severed the nose of the aircraft from the main body. The internal pressure dropped instantly, exposing everyone on board to negative 40-degree temperatures and an immediate loss of oxygen before the debris even began its fall. As this forensic evidence was being gathered, news arrived of a second explosion at the Narita airport in Japan. A bomb had detonated in the baggage handling area, killing 2 workers. This second bomb was intended for another Air India flight, but a last-minute schedule change meant the suitcase was still on a luggage cart in the terminal when the timer hit 0. Manifests and baggage tags from both Japan and the Atlantic crash site were traced back to the same point of origin, Vancouver, Canada. This confirmed that the 2 events were part of a single coordinated strike. The investigation led back to a specific check-in counter at Vancouver International Airport on the morning of June 22nd. A passenger had insisted on checking a heavy suitcase onto Flight 182, despite not having a confirmed seat for the final leg of the journey. He argued with the agent until the bag was accepted for transit, but he never actually boarded the plane. The suitcase contained a transistor radio that had been modified to hold high explosives. Because the wiring was hidden within the radio's own electronic components, it passed through the era's standard X-ray screening undetected. By tracing the specific components used in the radio and the baggage records, investigators identified the planers, a group of extremists based in British Columbia. They sought retaliation for a military operation conducted by the Indian government the previous year. This local political grievance resulted in the deaths of 329 civilians, the vast majority of whom were Canadian citizens with no involvement in the overseas conflict. Although the plot was unraveled, the legal proceedings that followed ended in a near-total failure to secure convictions against the organizers. The trials were undermined by critical errors. Intelligence agencies had erased wiretap tapes, physical evidence was mishandled, and several key witnesses were murdered or intimidated into silence before they could testify. The primary architect of the attack died before he could face a courtroom. Only one man, a mechanic who supplied the dynamite, received a prison sentence for his role in the deaths of over 300 people. This lack of accountability left the victims' families without closure, turning the investigation into a decades-long source of frustration and unresolved grief. Every June 23rd, families return to the Irish coast to hold a memorial service. They stand at the water's edge to remember those lost in a disaster that remains Canada's deadliest mass murder. This tragedy led to the most significant change in international aviation safety, the global mandate for positive passenger bag matching. This protocol ensures that no piece of checked luggage can fly unless the passenger who checked it is physically on board. If a passenger fails to board, the aircraft remains at the gate until their bags are identified and removed. The security procedures we navigate at airports today are a direct response to the failure that allowed a suitcase to fly without its owner. The safety of the modern traveler was bought by the 329 lives lost that morning.